Hey, good morning,
Man,
mediums. Welcome to another
that was
episode of
quick.
Live here on Keystroke Medium. It's season 2, episode 66. I'm here with Scott Moon, of course, and I am Josh Hayes, your fantastic co-host of the best internet show around. Today, Craig Martelle joins us to talk about his wildly successful collaborative career, the inaugural 20 Books to Vegas Writing
Which
Conference,
is going to be awesome.
which is going to be fantastic. Craig has published well over 40 novels, both collaborative and on his own, and is one of the main driving forces behind 20 Books to 50K, the Facebook group. We're going to talk a lot today. We're going to probably have to watch the show over and over to digest all the information before the conference, but I give you Craig Martelle. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, welcome from the subarctic. How are you doing today?
Well, I have a feeling that your office space is much more safer than Scott's and my
Safer from zombies.
basement.
Although,
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
Because
Bear-
in
bears.
my neighborhood, Alaska, if you stay up on current events, you'll find that Alaska is rated #1 in regards to survivability for the zombie apocalypse. And I'll tell you that my neighborhood, which is fairly big, but not really. If everybody in my neighborhood turned into a zombie, I wouldn't even have to change magazines. So
And that's an occult 1911.
that's why we have high survivability, just because our population density is 1 person per square mile. A zombie would starve before finding the next person if you really wanted them to. So
Low density, lots of guns.
everybody has guns.
Generators. Everybody's got a generator.
But we prefer the term thunder sticks.
Yes, thunder sticks. It's funny. Here in Kansas, you think, man, this is a wide open space, and sometimes it takes a while to get to some place, and then you think of 1 person per square mile. I can't even fathom that amount of empty space. It's crazy.
Empty.
You need an airplane to get to places up here. There's 3 main roads. That's it. The road Fairbanks. There's 3 roads leave. One heads north to Prudhoe Bay. That's the Hall Road. Ice Road truckers made that road famous. There's a road down to Anchorage, and then there's one that goes past Eielson Delta Junction and then catches Anchorage from the other direction, and that one goes to the Trans-Alaska Canadian, the Alcan, they call it. Sorry. So that's it. 3 roads that leave out of here. So my truck, I put 4,000 miles on my Jeep in 3 years because it's Fairbanks. And if you don't leave Fairbanks, how far can you really drive?
Yeah,
So,
Right.
I'm just going to go cruise around for a bit. Then I'm going to come back.
I have 3 roads that lead out of my neighborhood, so I mean, it's pretty close to Alaska.
It's like Fairbanks, Alaska in miniature, except it's not covered with snow and there's no bears. Well,
yeah,
That is
yeah.
true. There are no bears.
that we know of. There could be bears.
Yeah.
I've seen a mountain lion.
And the one direction to get to Canada, if you drive, it's only, I don't know, 750, 800 miles from here.
Right.
Because if you look at a map, Fairbanks is pretty much in the middle of Alaska. And then you look off to the east, and always on maps, Alaska's real small and it's south of Mexico. And so people think it's warmer than it might actually be. When you look at that, you're like, oh, that's not very far. The flight from Seattle to Fairbanks is 3.5 hours, and you get 2,000 miles of airline credit. So, and that's just that.
We could fly to the West Coast and back a couple of times from Wichita.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while since you've been on the show, and we've garnered a lot of new viewers and listeners since that time. If you wouldn't mind, Craig, just give us a little rundown on who you are, what you do, and how you got started in this big, crazy deal.
All right. Hey, I'm Craig Martelle. I retired from the Marine Corps just a shade over 15 years ago. I tried to retire, play golf every day. I couldn't do that. A little too young for that, a little too energetic. So I went to law school and got a law degree in 2.5 years, and then worked as a business consultant until I got tired of being away from home. And I was away from home over half my life. Okay, I made good money, sure, but still there's a limit. You hit a point where the money isn't worth it anymore, and they can't pay you enough to stay away from home for that much. So I retired again, started working on my yard, lit myself on fire, decided that it wasn't safe for me to be outside. So I came inside. I'm like, hey, I always wanted to write a book. Now let me sit down. I love my computer. Let me write a book. And that's what I did. So my first book, 61 days later after I started, which was October 4th of 2015, 61 days later, I had a 100,000-word novel. It wasn't bad. It was a good story. However, there were certain things in it that needed help. So I edited it myself like 20 times and finally tried to find a cover. Couldn't do it. PowerPoint for the win, made a cover.
There you go.
Oh my God, it was horrendous. But it got me out there. It got me over that first hurdle of being published. I sold a few books, and that book in and of itself, I sold a total of 56 copies before I unpublished it. And a traditional publisher bought that series, actually. Took that 100,000-word book, split it into two, added 2 additional books. So now it's, 250,000 words in 4 books. So, and traditionally published, and also it hit the bestseller list. That was August of last year.
And which one are we talking about here?
That's the End Times Alaska series.
Right.
Because Alaska's big. I had a bad title for the book. They worked to retitle it. A professional editor, professional book formatting, much better covers that talk to the prepper and survivalist community, which is what that book was kind of about. It was important for me. That first book, I started writing something. I spent a week or 2, and it just wasn't coming together because it was supposed to be an introspective, and it was total crap, and it was sucking my life away. I'm like, oh my God, let me write something. I want to write, but let me write something that's fun and that I know. So put myself in Alaska and said, hey, what would happen if I lost Fairbanks and had to survive? What would I do for my family? What would I do for me? What would I have to do? So I wrote that book. It was fun. I learned a lot. I learned that I thought I was a prepper, and I'm not. I really suck at it because I like coffee. I really like flush toilets. They're the bomb. So
really good.
We're praying and hoping that there is no apocalypse, because I wouldn't last long. Maybe I'm well armed, but
as long as you can defend the essentials, defend the coffee pot in the porta potty there.
I've got 18 guns, a pot of coffee, and a pooper. I'm good.
That's right. I need a trailer out back that'll work.
There you go.
So that's what I write, and that's what I would always advise people who are just starting out. Write what you know, because that you'll be able to get into it more. Because if you're not writing what you know for your first book, you're spending a lot of time researching, and then you're going to go down rabbit holes, and you're going to disappear, and you're going to lose your story. The thing that sells the most, that readers like, is the story. It's the characters that they can relate to. It's the flow of what's going on, what's going to happen next. Even if it's not a thriller, people still want to know what happens next. And that's you read Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle. Those stories are very short. However, you always want to know what happens next until you get to the end. Hey, what bits of information am I going to get to help figure this out? And that goes for whatever genre you write. It's important that you set it up so people want to turn the next page and keep reading, because that's how you gain your fans. The fans turn into super fans, and then they help sell your books, as well as Amazon, Facebook, or whatever else you sell. And it snowballs. Talking about 20 books to 50K. After I published my first book, that was January of 2016. I was there with Michael. He was on K boards and then jumped over to Facebook to start his own group, 20 books to 50K. I was one of the first 50 that came over, just watching and learning and saying, oh man, I need this information. I need this thing. My first 4 books were in 3 different genres. Okay, that was a mistake. No big deal. I wrote what I wanted to write.
Right.
And I also don't need to do this for the money. So I'm in a little bit different place than most people who are trying to cut the strings from their day jobs and then write full time as a living. You can do that. Richard Fox is a great example of how you can get there and then be very, very successful at managing your business of self-publishing. So I jumped over and where was I going with that?
You're talking about Michael and learning about the 20 books 50K and Michael.
Once you start churning, it was write what you know. So the book started flowing then. And after that, with a target of 60,000 words, I was writing well over 100,000 words a month. So I was finishing a book a month, and they were getting better and better, that first draft, because I found that if I wrote quickly, then I didn't lose the continuity. Right. So by not having to research, you'll see all my books have Marines in them because I don't have to research that a whole lot. And it's characters. How do characters interact, dialogue, and things like that? Which
locked up a little bit.
Oh yeah. My internet's not great up here because I live. I don't live in Fairbanks. I live 10 miles outside Fairbanks. So.
I think Josh locked up on my end too, so it was just me by myself. I thought it was the End Times, Kansas, right there for a second. I thought, man, I should have read that Prepper book.
Yeah. So write what you know and get to it, because you can't edit a blank page either. So if you write a book and it's crap, it's still better to work from. Even if you have to rewrite it, you can still take that as a lesson of what you don't want to do. Hey, this character doesn't work. He goes away and becomes somebody that people hate. And we don't want that. You want people to relate to your characters. So character-driven stories, and that's something that Michael Anderle has really excelled at. And working with him in collaboration, he's helped me do better at that too. So I think we're all in a good place.
We talked a little bit about your collaboration with Michael the last time you were on the show, and I think now that I think a lot of people are looking at his model and kind of branching out from that. And you and Scott now have a new project that you're working on, kind of the same way that you started out with Michael, I think, and that's the Dark Landing project. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, you bet. I see that you have the Bible, the series that should have led to mass catastrophe because it got canceled after 13 episodes, right behind you. So big fan of Firefly. And so thought we could do a mashup of the Firefly, the little bit of Western flavor with science fiction, and reached out to Scott because I've read some of his stuff. I love his stuff. So looked at this and said, hey, man, would you like to? Let's do an episodic serial of this. I sketched the first few episodes out and then wrote the first book. And the first book is short. It's only like 18,000 words, but it's still about setting that stage and building up these characters, a cast of varied characters with different motivations and how they interact. It's also to bring attention to some native issues, like we don't want prejudices that shouldn't exist, but do highlight them in a way that people can be safe talking about them and agree to do better. Look at it and just see how things can be. We have the good guy character, a sheriff, and the company, which the company town. One of the things I say is, if a problem hasn't been solved, look to who profits from it to see why it hasn't been solved.
Right.
As long as there's a profit motive, then we will always have Viagra and things like that. All kinds of research where there's never really the result that they're researching seems to get further away the more they research and the more money you pump into it. I don't know if that's just because things are out of reach and it's still beyond our technological capability, but I suspect there's also a profit motive that as long as people profit from treating things and not curing things, then we will have the treatments. Because you look at Marie Curie and those the folks from our history who have done away with polio, they didn't do it for the money. Right. So you look at all of those major breakthroughs, and it was because of somebody doing it outside of the profit motive and before those kinds of research were all owned. And I'm not trying to demonize any companies or anything. We need those treatments. However, we really would prefer the cure. Right. And that's Dark Landing. And Star Trek, the original series, address things in this way. And that's why I love science fiction, because you look at Star Trek through the lens of the 1960s. oh my God, there's a black person on the bridge, and she's a staff officer. And you look at, and they didn't treat her any differently. Hey, you're the comm officer. The way the captain, hey, comm, I need comm, and he would yell at her, get me that comm, just like he did anybody else.
Right.
Because it was, and that was the true equality in the 60s, where it was safe. And he made it safe in a way to talk about things that mattered to people. And
Right.
that's a Dark Landing. Actually, all my books have something like that in there. We make it safe. Look at the issues of today, and how do you want to address those in a way that you like, a way that it doesn't make you look like a dick.
You don't get too many haters when you bring up sensitive topics and things like that, and you can be
That's right.
Have a cathartic experience where you go out and not just be a hero of the action sequence, but a hero of the entire theme, for lack of a better term, of the whole book.
You mentioned the episodic presentation, and that you wrote 18,000 words, and then now, Scott, you're following up with the rest of the books. And Scott and I have talked very briefly about the project, and I haven't read any of it yet, but it seems like the first one you read is going to be, or wrote, is going to be 18,000, and he's writing 30,000 words, or approximately.
Mine should come in at about 30,000, just because the character, you take the original Assignment Dark Landing, which is the first book in the series, and you take those characters, you kind of go into their motivations and what they want and what's stopping them from getting it, and it just evolves from there. So really about 30K. It's a good solid novella, short novel length. That's what we're going to be doing.
20 to 30. I'm good with. The most important thing is a complete story.
Yeah.
We don't want to go too many tendrils, because we want to keep it short. We want to keep the pricing at $2.99, and I figured with that Assignment Dark Landing, the first one at 18,000 words, we'd keep it 99 cents as like a funnel to bring people in, and the other ones would be a little bit longer to show, because you have to show that value proposition. Too many indies price themselves out of the market. They use Insta Freebie and too many freebies. They give most of their stuff away, and then they wonder why they don't have buyers, because you've cultivated your readership to expect stuff for free or bargain.
Right.
If you in the collaboration with Mike Landerly, our first book, we publish it, and that first day it's 99 cents always. So we build this base support of readership who follows us on Facebook, who follows our newsletters, who is there for us. And for that 24 hours, they get that 99-cent bargain. And after that, we change it. The price changes, and it's not coming back to 99 cents, because this is it's just the cost of writing a book. You take 1 month of your life, and writing full time, that truly is 1 month of my life that I've spent writing this book. And I hope that people are willing to pay $3.99 or $4.99 for it. So it's, and I'm not trying to screw anybody. We make them available on Kindle Unlimited. If you can read 4 books a month on Kindle Unlimited, that pays for itself with our books. So you can do it that way. We'll get the page reads and move on. But we want you to read all of our backlist too, all 41 books.
All 41. Start at the beginning. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who's a big reader at work, and when I was first starting this, and I mentioned to him, I was talking about my pricing, and I discussed $2.99 versus $3.99 or something like that. And to me at the time, the wisdom was kind of going the other way, and he looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, "Yeah, that's the $2.99 is like nothing for me. That's so much cheaper than books have been for the last 10 years." He's all buy those all day long.
Yeah, because you think pulp, the mass market publications before ebooks became a thing, and you go in the store, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and those were like 99 cents brand new, and then $2.99. And recently, paperbacks are $7.99 or $8.99 for a paperback. And you had no other option. And here I've got an option that I can read that book for $9.99 for a monthly Kindle membership, along with 4 or 5 others. Okay. Now, Kindle Unlimited, there are a number of books that aren't there, but there are a hell of a lot more that are.
There's a lot of books there. A lot of good books that are available.
Good books, yeah.
Yep. Well, and Scott and I, and we've talked with guests before on the show about this topic, and price is kind of a funny thing in the indie market, especially for writers when they try to decide where to price your books at, and then even buyers who are like, "This book's $5.99" or "This book's $7.99," when that was that was the normal price back in the day. Now, granted, it's still an ebook, so it's not, you're not buying a paperback, but I remember going to Borders and Barnes and Noble and buying, spending $10 on a paperback and doing it without even thinking, it's $10 on a paperback. And now you see $3 or $4.99 and people kind of get ate up about it. They're like, why is this book not free?
You think about it, the Kindle book's going to last you a lot longer anyway. It's not going to get dog-eared and fall apart and get lost. It's always going to be there for you.
If you dog-ear your Kindle, I want to meet you. If you
I have actually broken some Kindles. I have to. But the book was still on the cloud.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right. I looked at mine and I had, because I bought a new Kindle Paperwhite, which I really like the resolution of the screen, man. It's the bomb. But then I said, hey, download my books. And it's like, oh, you have over 1,000 or 1,100, 1,200, something like that. I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
I've been busy. Yeah.
Goodness.
Well, I'm really excited for your guys' project to launch. Do you have any idea when it's going to go live?
Well, in order to hit these, because I'd like to release one every 3 weeks because they are shorter. And 3 weeks seems to be the sweet spot where you find you get your reader, and 3 weeks later you deliver the next book, and 3 weeks after that deliver the next book and the next book. So I wanted to wait until we had 3, maybe even 4 books done before we release that first one, and then release them very, very regularly, every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on. And if Scott gets behind, I can dive in and write a book at 20 to 30,000 words, especially once the story is flowing. Just dive in and write an episode, and it can be and it doesn't even have to relate to those characters that Scott's building, because I want him to own those characters. It could be about the company back in that's off planet, and be a side story. And there, I can fill it in. We hit that every 3 weeks, and then Scott picks back up. So the initial was 12 or 13 books, and if it goes to 24, I'm good with that. I'm good. And at 30,000 words, I don't want us to burn out. If we're trying to do 70, 80,000 words, those can get it can get tiresome trying to find that story and the tendrils that are going to fill that in. Like my Terry Henry Walton Chronicles with Michael Anderle, 10 books, a little over 700,000 words, and it's not that massive. Well, wrote those in 9 months. The last 3 came in just under 300,000 words, because we knew we were at a hard stop at 10 books because of our audiobook contract. So I had to finish it in 10 books. So yeah, number 8 is like 90,000. Number 9 is 117,000, and number 10 was 90,000 words too. So it's and there's all had the target of 60,000 words. So
it's like a J.K. Rowling thing, where each book gets progressively longer as the series goes.
Oh, if you look at it, if you look at the paperbacks, that's what it is. Here's the first 6. Here's the last 3. So the first 7, but that's. It all went back to telling the story. Since I added so many characters, now I'm going to wrap up. Now I need to keep these characters going. And holy cow, the flow just demanded that we write that. Now, thanks to the KENP of a gazillion pages on 8, 9, and 10, the revenue is pretty good. But the pricing, we priced those 3 books at $4.99. First one's and $3.99 for the rest. And
for people oh, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. I'd say for people new to the show, the KENP is that's Kindle Ridge for Kindle Unlimited, and that's a major source of income to most indie authors nowadays. So yeah, and that would be a definite advantage if you got people are really into the story. Those people read a lot of books.
Well, and our whole targeting effort, Michael's targeting effort from the beginning with the Critharian Gambit, was the whale readers, those people who read a book every few days, or even a book or multiple books a day. And with that target, now Kindle Unlimited is critical, because those people aren't buying books; it would go broke.
Oh yeah,
they're just renting books. You can only have 10 in your queue at a time, and they probably swap out their 10 every week. But you get those page reads, and a sale is worth more than the page reads for most books. And it's okay. It really is. We're doing okay. I know a lot of authors think we're getting the short end of the stick, but I look at it as a different marketplace. The people who are vast consumers of reading material aren't necessarily buyers simply because you don't have the space for it. You don't have the the money for it. If you're buying 3 books a day, and we're paperbacks, $10 a book, $30 a day to buy paperbacks, you would also run out of space. So you'd have to pay an extra mortgage to for all the space to put your books.
My wife has an aunt who has books lined. All of her bookshelves are full, and she has books lined in the hallways up to about 3 feet. There's like little retainer walls of paperback novels.
Good for her.
She's a reading machine. So. She was in the Air Force like Josh, so she had probably lots of time on her hands.
Right. You look at how much they've spent, but now you look at Kindle Unlimited, they can do that. They can read that. So I get a little bit of revenue from somebody who I wouldn't have realized it from otherwise. And when we first publish 99 cents, a lot of those readers now buy because they want to go back and reread them, and they maintain their 10 books in the Kindle Unlimited, but then they have their other kitty of books to go back to reread, right. Like before the next book comes out. And a number of our readers do that. And it's like social proof for a hotel. You don't have a survey say, hey, did you have a great time? All you do is look, does this person come back to your hotel? And if they do, then they were happy with the previous service. So that's when you do a hotel survey, they might ask, how many times have you stayed here or stayed at this chain? If you're answering a big number, then they understand, okay, they like what they see. And books, if you can get people to reread your book, then it's complex enough that they're trying to get more from it. And also a testament to they like the way your book reads. They want that high that they got the first time when they read your story, which is, it doesn't get any more incredible than that you're giving people this feeling. Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good feeling. Whenever somebody tells you, that first time, I don't know if you and Josh remember that the first time somebody came and talked to you about your books unsolicited, that's always a good feeling. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I the first couple of reviews that I got on my first release, and even reviews that I get now, but I always get kind of one of those cool adrenaline dumps when somebody you have no idea who it is was like, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm like, thank you very much. I like that a lot.
Thank you very much. Not my mom.
Yeah.
That's right. Out of my first 56 sales, I think my dad bought 50 of them and gave them out to all his friends.
Yeah, in there.
So, hey Scott, what do you think about our collaboration, man?
First of all, I love the characters in the story, and I get in these writing riffs with it. The main character, Thaddeus Fry, is a sheriff. He's got a military background, and he's got a deputy who's kind of one of the locals. They're on the planet Ungwillook, and their interaction is just cracks me up all day long. I love it. And then there's a whole bunch of other characters from your first book that are going places. So good things. I can't wait. I'm excited to write 12 books in that. Maybe we'll do 24 too. I'll see.
We'll do what as long as the readers are digging it, man. It's hard to stop because separate, especially with the episodes, we can keep the plot simple enough that we can think of something new for the next week and for the next week and the next week.
That was one of my questions. Is you're doing 20 to 30,000 word bits, and it's a pretty good size novella, even short novel, if you will. So do you have like an overarching plot thread that's going to connect all these things? Or
it's kind of like Firefly because they're connected, but they're not necessarily interdependent episode per episode. With some of the things I was working on the third book, and I'll get like a scene out of a Western, like I like Tombstones, one of my favorite Western movies,
Oh yeah.
And there's a couple of scenes in there, and that scene will just flash in my mind while I'm writing. I'm like, oh, this could be science fiction. This is going to be cool. So yeah, you are what they say, you're a sum of the last 5 people you met and the last 5 books you read, probably the last 5 movies you saw too, or there's some quote like that. I can't remember who said it.
So how much of the law officer are you putting into this sheriff from your experiences, and how does that translate into? Is he technically a sheriff, or is he like the captain, like Malcolm Reynolds as the captain of the Firefly, or how does that all work out with your storyline?
It's his character is a little bit different because technically he's still finishing out his terms of service, and he had elected to do it in this capacity. So, and then he also, in a frontier world, you may work for the government, but you really work for whoever's paying the bills and keeping the peace and doing either good or bad things there. So I'm trying to write it from his perspective of somebody who is not really formally trained as law enforcement, but has some related skills. It's from the military background. And then he is also alone pretty much and training his own deputy, and not a lot of resources sometimes. He's kind of like what's the quote, the famous quote, one ranger, one riot from the Texas Rangers. So that
Nice.
kind of thing. But
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Scott to come up with the infamous Mrs. Reynolds episode, because we did set up Thaddeus Fry to have ex-wives, and that was another reason why he found the frontier so enticing.
Yeah, it's like, this could be a good place for me. I think I'll go out here for a while. Yeah,
I'm really excited to read these. I'm Firefly. Everybody that watches the show knows I'm a huge Firefly fan, but
sometimes I tell you Firefly's no good just to make you mad and just stir the pot. Because I know you're gonna just freak out.
Yeah, one of these days I'm just gonna eject you from the show the next time. But I love Firefly. I love the interaction those characters have. So I'm really interested to read.
Yeah.
It's one of the most fun projects I've worked on for a long time. It's really really something refreshing and new, and still in my wheelhouse more or less, I think.
And we're trying to make it fun in episodes, because then it makes it easier in case we ever get the opportunity to sell it for a script or for a series. Because bring back Firefly, you dickweeds.
Yeah, right? We need a petition. That should be in the back of every book.
I need a flag or a picket board. I'm gonna just one of these episodes. It's just gonna be me walking circles in my basement office with a sign that says "Bring back Firefly."
It could work. It's just crazy enough to work. Let's try it.
Let's break and talk about the book of the week real quick, and then we'll jump into 20 books to Vegas.
Oh, I can't wait.
So the book of the week this week is a brand new book from Ken Lizzotto, and it's Genesis, the book one of his first Colony Fleet series. Just came out 3 weeks ago, and so this book is a mission gone wrong. Innocent lives have been lost. Escaping wrongful imprisonment wasn't something Connor had in mind, but being put into stasis aboard Earth's first interstellar colony ship was something he couldn't have prepared for. For 300,000 colonists, the new colony brings the promise of a fresh start, a second chance. Connor might be the wrong man for the colony, but he's the right man to see that it survives what's coming. A new world with new challenges, but the mission has changed. If you loved Old Man's War and Ender's Game, you'll love Genesis First Colony, a new military science fiction series by Ken Lizzotto. And right now it's discounted at, well, I don't know if it's still discounted. It's $3.99 now, so I don't know if it's changing price, but in his description today, it's still it says it's discounted price. So I will put the link in the show notes, and I'm going to link it in the YouTube chat as well right now. So go pick it up. That's Genesis by Ken Lizzotto.
Yeah, I bought that when it first came out as well. Love the premise. I love the cover. Well done, a good sci-fi space cover. And our own Gateway to the Universe came out 10 days ago or something like that. And that is, along with going to space, is a great thing. Taking that colony ship and going to the far reaches. What a great concept. And Ken Lizzotto is a great writer too. So a good prop from here.
Yeah, we had him on the show, and he was really fun to have on the show when he came on. So 20 books to 50K is the Facebook group that you and Michael Anderle predominantly run between the two. So I guess, do you want to just give us a little brief rundown on what 20 books to 50K is, what it means, and then we'll jump into talking about the conference.
The concept originally was Michael Anderle was looking at, hey, I want to retire to Cabo San Lucas. I need 36 grand. If I write 20 books, and each book makes $7.50 a day, which at $2.99, that's like you sell 4 books a day. That's it. That's all you need to do for each book every day, and you'll have a revenue of over $50,000 a year, which then you can retire to Cabo San Lucas and have a pretty decent life with your 20 books, and you pump out a book every now and then, and you don't have to make a whole lot per book if you've got the volume. Call it the Walmart model, where you make a little bit but over a vast number of products, as opposed to the Ferrari model, where you sell a very few number but you make a huge amount on each one. So we don't need 1 million readers, we don't need 100,000 readers, but if we're giving 10,000 dedicated and loyal readers a story every month, that revenue is decent, and actually is way more than 50,000. Because what we find is that the line on the graph isn't linear. You don't sell 4 books every day. You sell 150 books today and 4 tomorrow. And so you got to ride that wave. So over the course of a year, all you need is what, 5,000 per book, and that's $100,000. It's a 6-figure author, which it puts you in the top 2%, 1% of all authors.
Yeah.
So as you build that readership, and that's the serials with Dark Landing, the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles. We build that foundation. We advertise the hell of that first book, and we tell stories that people are willing to buy. You can give books away all day long, and you're going to develop this readership that expects to get free books. You can't. Not that people don't deserve free books, but please, we have our own lives to support. We have mortgages, we have car payments, we have whatever. We have to live. And it's not just living to tell stories, because this is the business of being an independent author.
Right.
So we're not grossly overpricing books. The most expensive book we have is $4.99. Some of the box sets, we have a box set at $9.99, but that has 3 books that are $4.99 each. So you get 3 for the price of 2. Those kinds of things. You buy those books, you help us to keep writing stories. And so you look at the 20 books model. It initially, on the face of it, it says, okay, we just need to make a little bit with velocity. But it's become so much more than that. It's about developing that base readership and what Michael calls the minimum viable product. You write your first 3,000 words, you float it out there and let people see. And how many people come back to you and say, God, I can't wait to see what comes next. And then you keep going. And then you're doing it with whole books. Oh man, this is great. That's the best. Those are the best reviews I get, is I can't wait to see what's next.
Oh yeah, that's what you want.
Because you build that more and more. So 20 books. So what you find is that it's a logarithmic curve and not a straight curve. So, and Michael saw this when he first started, was that, hey, he was making $750 a day on his first book, but then by the 4th book, he was making $10,000 because he found that readership they wanted. And they said, God, I have to see what's next. Come on, Michael, when's the next book coming out? When's the next book coming out? Because he was targeting the whale readers. So if you have a base readership of 10,000 people, you're going to make a very, very good living. But if you keep that growing, those 10,000, you keep them satisfied with another story, with a promise of yet another story that you deliver. Don't promise them book 3 and then never write book 3.
Ooh, yeah.
You'll have issues because there's a lot of stuff out there. And once they go, it's really, really hard to get them back. And it's expensive too, because you have to market and advertise, and that all costs. So the velocity of publication, which 20 books to 50K was initially about velocity, but then true understanding, it's about keeping the readers engaged. If you can manage readership expectations and you publish a book every 3 months, that works just fine. As long as the person who reads your book, you don't lose them, as in they join your newsletter or they're waiting, they're an Amazon follower, so they'll get that notification when the next book comes out. So 20 books to 50K has evolved. So it's more like 20 books to 1 million if you're doing it right. And right is relative, because everybody does things a little bit different. Everybody's journey up the mountain is different. But I saw an advertisement a couple months ago for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Mm-hmm. Harry Potter, like J.K. Rowling, who sold $1 billion of books, hasn't made enough money and needs to advertise.
You got to advertise in case somebody's heard about it. Get that one person out of the rock.
Well, 9%. She's got 9% of the readers of English to buy her books. That's it. Jeez. So there's 91% still out there. Well, and what it says is even the person who is at the very top thinks that there's no top, is still trying to climb. So no matter where you are in your journey, you can always do a little bit better. If you sold 1 million copies of your book, why haven't you sold 2 million? Because if there's that many people, how are they helping you sell the next books? Why don't you have a movie to help you sell another 1 million after you repackage the first book? There's so many levels on this mountain, And most people are just trying to say, hey, I just need $1,000 a month because I work full time or whatever is your life. What does that take? So 1,000, what does it take for that to become 1,200, 1,500, and then 2,000, 3,000, and you're still doing your full-time job? We aren't saying you have to publish. There's nothing prescriptive about this business. What you have to do is you have to find readers willing to buy your books. That's the only definitive thing you have to do as a professional author.
Yep.
And now if you keep them on the hook once every 6 months, John Grisham once a year, that was his old model. But a great book, John Grisham, huge on the front cover because, hey, he wrote a book that made people think and won a year. That was his whole, he wrote, what did he say? 100 words a day or 1,000 words a day? I mean, it was a ridiculously low number if you ask me.
That's pretty doable. I mean, if you're writing every day, shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, when I've started full time, my first goal was 1,000 words a day, and I had trouble meeting that. Mm-hmm. But now, if I need 1,000 words, I can turn everything off for 45 minutes, and I can get 1,000 words. But I write every day. It's important to write every day because it's like running a marathon. Yep. You don't just all of a sudden jump up and say, "Hey, I'm going to run a marathon today." You won't make it.
Right.
If you've been working up to that for the last 6 months or a year, guess what? You will make it. You'll be okay.
So there's some things to that too. So like you build like the ability to write, but you build the ability to set aside time. You get people around you trained to know that, hey, this is important for me to go write right now. And then plus just the actual deal of writing is easier. So are these some of the things we're going to talk about at the conference? Or what can people expect they're going there? I know it's booked up right now, but probably a lot of people are still interested in it.
You bet. Well, we put out the schedule. We have a dozen, 15 guest speakers who are going to each speak on a separate topic because this is a conference where no matter where you are on your journey, you can get something from these guest speakers. So we have breakout sessions that are very business oriented, like an IP lawyer is coming from Chicago. We have an enrolled agent with the IRS coming to talk taxes, and we'll have handouts for that as well. We'll have people, Dave Chesson, Kindlepreneur, he's coming to talk keywords. We have the blurb master, Brian Cohen, he's coming to talk blurbs. We have Brian Meeks, who's going to talk AMS ads. He lives for AMS ads and data. We have Michael Cooper going to talk Facebook ads. He lives for that stuff. We have Honore Corder who's going to talk and talk to you about how to make your fortune. Michael Anderley is going to talk beats and series arcs. I'll be on a panel with Michael, with Martha Carr and Chris Raymond, talking about collaboration, what it's like to collaborate and have areas. So we're going to talk all these things, more specific things. Hey, that's what the breaks are for. The way I've set it up is only 2 sessions, sessions are scheduled for about 45 minutes each. We've asked the guest speakers to be roughly about 30 minutes, maybe take some questions, but try to finish early. So our 15-minute breaks might be more like 30-minute breaks, which would be optimal. And then that's where you ask these questions. Go find Michael. Go find Michael Cooper. Talk to them about things you have you want to know. And the conversations that you're going to hear in the hallway, in the room as people are standing around their bagels and their coffee. I ordered like 1 million gallons of coffee for me, and there's some for other people.
Everybody else gets 1 cup.
Yeah. Here's a Lipton tea bag and some hot water for you. But that's why I want the really long breaks, because we're going to have such an august group of people there. When I went through the survey, which I'm not going to make that public, we have 4 7-figure authors, 4 authors making over 7 figures a year. We have, at last count, it was almost 50 authors who are making over 6 figures a year will be at the conference. There is a very, very good group of people there that you can learn from. And that's probably going to be over 50% of what you take away from Vegas will be these sidebar conversations.
Just the people in the crowd are going to have so much information and experience to share about how they're getting there. And, then you say 6-figure income, but I'm, from a little bit of knowledge I have about that, is I always thought 6-figure is like $100,000 plus $1. That's 6 figures. That's kind of minimalistic thinking, because It's a lot of the people that are doing well are doing considerably better than that, from what I understand. So
Yes,
it can be done. It takes a lot of work, obviously. And
yeah.
It's a good time to be a writer. It's scary, though.
It is a great time as a self-published. Like 3 or 4 years ago, there wasn't as much competition, and it may have been easier according to some people. And I don't care about that. What matters is that you write a great story, and maybe it's harder to find that readership now than it was back then for the indies. But what I expect is over the course of years, we're going to see a sea change where the traditional publishers aren't going to take people based on blank submissions because they don't need to. They're going to look at people like Michael Anderle and say, hey, we'll give you a 7-figure advance for your next book because we know you have this readership. We know you're successful. We know you can write. There's because as a business and this business consulting, it's what I did prior to retiring and writing is you want to reduce your business risk. Why do you want to put out a product that you're not sure it's going to sell when you can just go talk to an author who's already wildly successful and then make him an offer he can't refuse, and he can make you wildly successful too.
Everybody wins.
He's got leverage because he's wildly successful already. However, your risk is lowered. So if you only need, because right now traditionally published, you may get pennies on the dollar in regards to your return. But if you're the publisher and you know there's no risk, then you can accept that pennies on the dollar model, just like Walmart, and you're going to make good money because you know this guy's already selling 100,000 books a month. Because I look back at my numbers, and I think of myself as nobody, and I'm selling between 5,000 and 10,000 books a month.
Wow.
That's so sweet.
That's amazing. And it leads me to my next question of selling all these books. And you have, like I said at the beginning of the show, you're selling books that you yourself have done by yourself, and then collaborative work with various other authors. So coming from that collaborative standpoint, either as a writer who's looking to join a collaboration or a writer like yourself who is looking for collaborators, if I'm an author who maybe doesn't have a very big readership, who is very proactive and wants to get into what you're doing, if I want to come to you and say, hey, would you work with me? What are you looking for in a writer to collaborate with?
That's a great question, Josh. And what I would tell you is that I want to know that you can produce, because I don't want somebody to tell me I can have a book done in 3 weeks and then 2 months later you still don't have that book done. Because once again, it's managing reader expectations. If you don't have a big readership, but you're producing books, hey, I work a full-time job, I can do one 60,000 word book in 3 months. That's perfectly fine, because that, once again, is managing reader expectations. I want to know that you can do the work, and I want to know that your books are getting better, that you listen to your readership and say, oh, okay, I see where I missed there. I see where I can smooth out the writing, and that your writing it flows. The best thing an author can do is be a big reader. Read and then put that into writing. A lot of people get lost in the prose. Fewer words are better. And I'm a big fan of that. The sweet spot of readership is an 8th grade level of reading. I was surprised to see that, but I read an awful lot of research. And so 4 and 5 syllable words, try to keep those to a minimum. You can try to show everybody how smart you are, or you can be a good businessman. And it's important to tell a story in a way that anybody can read. You look at J.K. Rowling's work, and you could say, hey, that's fairly simplistic. It is genius in how it flows. You make up these words that are crazy, but you put them in such a way that people can figure out what they really mean. So you look at J.R.R. Tolkien's The Silmarillion. Sure, I bought the hardback just like everybody else, but it's unreadable. My God, it is unreadable. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, they didn't go to that extent, but the Silmarillion was insane, and he wrote that more like a hobby book of, hey, look at this neat stuff out of this world I've created, as opposed to a book that would flow. You look at The Hobbit, and that read so much smoother. So you want a smooth flowing story. So I would look for that, as opposed to a person who tries to over describe. for me personally, I'm looking at characters and story flow. Do you make me want to turn the page?
And are you still looking for collaborators now? Or are you basically full up with your schedule?
I've got a few. I'm pretty full for now because I have my own publishing schedule that maybe over time will take that away. But right now I've got Scott. Kim Dorothy is doing a story, just a standalone called The Human Experiment. That was a neat idea. Of course, it's neat. I came up with it. So not
of course it is.
It's an idea that I found neat. And I thought, hey, let me do this, with the end result being, can you be happy in a zoo if you don't know you're in a zoo? So how do you look at that from a human perspective? The collaborators with Michael. Also, I'm an area manager for Michael for the Age of Expansion. So I have 6 authors that are working for me to produce Age of Expansion space opera novels. So I get to read all those and do a quick, do a first time edit pass on those. So that'll limit my writing time even more. So right now I'm kind of full on collaborators. However, that doesn't mean 2018 isn't, because Jonathan Brazy and I, Colonel USMC retired, he and I are talking about doing a Mill Sci-Fi, a good space marine collaboration.
Very cool.
Freaking love.
I'll be reading that. I'll read that.
How can you beat that? Which is where The Bad Company, my current series, is going. I've got 20,000 words into that, and that is awesome. We have mechs, we have rail guns, and oh yeah.
Anything with the word space marine and mech in it, I'm probably going to read that at some point. I love that.
Oh yeah, you will. I'll charge you full price.
So the other so the other question I have that kind of goes to the other side of the spectrum, and I know we need to wrap up here pretty quick, but the other question is, if you're in a position like yourself, and like say I'm looking to work with collaborators to kind of do what you're doing, do you have any advice on that?
The important thing there is that you have to have your story arc, the overall arc of a series, fairly sound. You have to know where you want to go. The collaborator is the person who needs to make that pitch. Hey, I'd like a story arc. I'd like a space opera where you go pacify a number of planets, but you do it in a way that the readers love it, and not the hostile Sherman's March on Georgia way. So the collaborator then makes that pitch saying, hey, here's what I think we could do. And you listen and say, hey, you talk. The best thing about collaboration is talking back and forth and saying, hey, what do you think? What do you think? And then it takes off. Michael Anderle is great at that. He is the idea generator. You talk with him, and he'll, even if you're not a collaborator, you talk with him for 5 minutes, you'll have ideas for books as soon as you walk away. Or in my case, the first time I talked with him, it was confirmed that my covers really sucked. So I was in the process of getting new covers at the time. So I was with him on that. But if you ask for feedback, don't be afraid to get it. Because if your cover isn't good and it's not helping you sell your book, then you need a new cover. If your blurb isn't good and helping you sell your book, then you need a new blurb, and so on down the line until that person gets to the end, and then you've made it. So that's what every book needs to be, not just writing 20 books and all of a sudden you're successful. No, you can be successful on 3 books. And I say 3 books in a series. My first 4 books were in 3 different genres. Don't do that. 3 books in a row. By the time you get a 3rd book, that's where you get your serious readers who won't start a series until there are 3 books, just because they don't want to be disappointed. Freebie hunters, people who look for free books and troll on Insta Freebie and stuff like that. You get a lot of first books, but then you don't ever get to read books 2 or 3 because maybe your budget doesn't allow. And I'm not denigrating anyone,
sure,
but that's not the readership you're trying to cultivate. You're trying to cultivate that readership that they want to read your book and are willing to, even if it's dropped 99 cents. Like I said, every one of our books in the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles, you could have had the first 10 books for less than $10 if you just got them on the day they came out. Every book, and every book going forward will be that way. So that's not asking too much. I mean, that's 9 months of my life writing those books.
Yeah. And writing is not easy, even if you love it. You know, a lot of people do lots of things. They have hobbies and things that they really enjoy, but it's not easy to do those things. And so it's perfectly reasonable to charge a fair price for something that you took months to write. And it also, that model rewards people for staying engaged and showing up on launch day. Yeah, launch day is very important for writers, whether you're indie or traditional or anything.
So I know we're getting right to the end of the hour, and really quickly, I know that this year, 20 book to 50K, this conference is sold out. And are we making plans to do a 20 books to Vegas 18 already, or?
We are, and hopefully I'll be able to sign that contract with Sam's Town when I'm there. At first, I want to make sure that it's as smoke-free as I'm led to believe. You can't smoke in the casino. However, they just redid all the rooms. They have a significant block of rooms that are true non-smoking. And the conference rooms themselves, the conference center is supposed to be smoke-free. So as long as it's as I'm believe, and we've had a number of people stop by and they say, hey, it's not bad at all. It's a pretty nice place. Then we hope to sign that contract for November 2 to 4 in 2018 and have it there. And also, I believe we'll need to ratchet up, but the room we have will hold 650 people. So we'll keep ratcheting up until we hit 1,000 or 2,000 or I don't know.
Whatever.
We need to put a limit on it.
Well, and then you're doing 20 books to, is it London? 20 books to London in February?
20 books London. Yeah, February 3rd and 4th. We're squeezing a 3-day program into 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, just because London is so damn expensive.
Yeah.
We could do Vegas for $99. London is $200 for 2 days. And it's a lunch both days, and there's no snacks during the morning or afternoon sessions just because London is so expensive. And we really tried to keep it as inexpensive as possible because of so many new authors. We want people to be successful, and we don't want to suck down all their funds while they're trying to learn.
Right. Yeah.
And then 20 books Bali. Now that's a completely different story. 20 books Bali, which is January 4th to 6th, 2019, is about celebrating success. And the way we're working that one is we're going to have, sorry, getting too many notes. I get probably 100 messages a day thanks to the conference.
I'm going to send you one right now to kind of mention
That's you join the queue. 20 books Bali is about celebrating success, and what we're going to do is we're going to make that an all-inclusive for once you get there. First, to show that you're making enough off your writing that you can take a vacation to Bali. It's going to be a conference. It's going to be all-inclusive, so your conference fee might be $2,000, $2,500. However, if you took your family on vacation to Bali, you wouldn't be able to deduct their food or
Right.
other things for them. But if it's a conference fee, you can deduct it. So we're going to set it up, and it's all above board. But so it's going to be all inclusive, and it's going to be a party. We're going to limit that one to about 150 people. We've already been in touch with the Bali, the Hilton Bali, Bali Hilton, and really nice facility. All 3 days, all three meals. It's going to be a total bash, celebrating success.
On your can there, Josh.
Yeah. What are you trying to say?
I'm going to say that you get you to Bali, get you out in your skimpy little swimming suit and do what they do out there.
Yeah, we're looking at a minimal group. We've already asked some people. I've asked Hugh Howey, who said he'll be in South Africa at that time and won't be able to attend. But Mark Dawson he said that he will probably be able to make it.
Oh, very cool.
We're in a really good place, I think, for setting that up. 20 Books Vegas is going to establish the 20 Books to 50K brand as a real brand to help indies. Mark Dawson does his self-publishing formula. Joe Penn does great work. Chris Fox does great work for indies. And 20 Books to 50K is another, let's say, tool in that toolbox. And we're the let's say a funnel alternative, because all these people in London, Joe Penn will be there, but she's not speaking. She's going to be just in the audience. And that's a great thing, that people of that caliber are willing to come and see other people speak. See Michael Anderle and Mark Dawson do a collaboration panel where they talk about success and dealing with it, and where they talk about what got them launched. How did they really take off? Because all of a sudden, you don't all of a sudden start making $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month. It takes a certain effort. You can't just work hard. You have to work hard at the right things. And that's what's most important, is what are those right things? As writers, we're alone. We sit in our offices, we write on our computers, we look at our screen, we see the words, we see the story, but we're alone. But it doesn't mean you have to be alone.
Right.
The business of being a writer is something that nobody can do alone. You need lots of company, and 20 books to 50K is a way to get that company. We don't charge. That's not it. But I would still say, if you're a romance writer, join the RWA. If you're a science fiction author, join SFWA once you've made enough money. Join professional organizations. However, find that core group of people where, as you start getting successful, you can give back, because that helps you learn more too. Because the learning cycle is see, do, learn. So you watch people do it, you jump in, you do it yourself, okay, and then you start teaching. So see, do, teach. I'm sorry. And as you're teaching it, then you fill in those extra gaps and become even better at it. So
yeah,
I'm super excited to go to the conference, and we've already got dinner set up for like 3 of the days, so
for every day.
Yes.
Dinner, breakfast. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm swamped.
My goal is to gain 15 pounds while I'm there. I can make it happen
and not lose all my money.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
Craig, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. It was really a good time to talk with you and learning about Dark Landing and then 20 books to 50 Vegas. It's I'm excited.
It's right around the corner, man. We're going to be there anytime.
18 days from today.
And everybody that was hanging out in the live chat, you guys were shenanigan free today. Just kidding. There's always shenanigans, mayhem going on in the live chat. We thank you guys for hanging out with us. It's always a great time. Next week, we have Glenn Stewart and then Jamie Albright. We will be off on the 6th because we will be in Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby.
Joanna Penn will start us back up on the 13th of November after the conference. So
good to go.
That's awesome. She's a hoot. I've heard her talk before.
It's going to be a great month, and Greg, we'll see you here in a couple weeks, bud.
All right, we'll see you there, man. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Watch out for bears. We didn't even talk about bears.
No bears today.
My idea for a collaborative project is going to be about people who are able to build consensus with bears, so they don't have to get eaten.
There we go.
That's
I got
right,
you guys.
All right. For Scott Moon, I am Josh Hayes. We have been live with Craig Martelle. Thank you. And come back next week. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. You guys have a fantastic Monday.